Welcome back to the Artefactors Union. I am your host and foreman, Douglas Scoundrels. Today we are assembling something special. Pain and Suffering. The Insomnia box, a effectively legendary box amongst Malifaux models for how difficult it is. And actually the first one I attempted to do for Artefactors Union, but back then I thought I could possibly get away with just doing photographs and describing it. And that took like weeks to finish. Videos are actually faster, so I'm excited to get this one done. This is like one of the last really difficult boxes I've been wanting to do. So, Insomnia contains 4 models, 1 Enforcer, Serena Bowman, this lady right here, and then 3 Insidious Madnesses, the actual difficult part of the box, these blue, mouthy, eye, masky, tentacly things. That's the artwork, renders on the back, Serena tipping her hat, and then the Insidious Madness is looking like just a hot mess of body parts, and it is. That's where the difficulty comes in. There's also quite a few bits there, but that's the render, so let's look at the sprues now. I got my sprues in 3 parts. I've got Serena here on her own, and that looks like one of our Insidious Madnesses was popped off of this guy, possibly right there. So, as far as order, we'll go and assemble Serena first. Then we will go as numbered on the sprues. So here is Insidious Madness 1, 2, and 3. And it looks like it might be an increasing difficulty there, so that'll be nice. We'll end with the hardest one, but we'll set these aside. I'll go ahead and put the instructions for Serena on the screen, and then we'll go over how to assemble her. Serena's assembly will probably go as such. We will take the body and then add each of the, I believe this is the left leg, and then the right leg to it, and enclose that in the front of the skirt over here. Then we'll go ahead and do the feet. They've got very hard to see distinguishing connection points on them, so there is a specific right and left here. I'll show you when you get to that. So once we're done with the legs and the skirt, then we'll go ahead and add the back part of the skirt as well. Then the hat. Second to last, we'll do our left arm, which is missing there, but I've got a replacement from Weird Games, thank you very much, which is holding onto the hat, so we need to do the hat first, and then we'll finish with the right arm, which is holding the fan. Alright, so I'm going to start with this piece, then this piece. I have already wildly gotten this wrong, so that's an ominous start to this video, but I'll be okay, we'll be okay. So we actually need to first clip out the front part of the skirt, this bit right here. And then our left leg is going to fit in here, which is the shorter leg, this one right here. So clip that out, we'll glue that in. And then once that's in, we'll actually attach this to the main body, and it attaching to the main body will create the connection point for the right leg. So first add the left leg to this. There they are attached. I did a quick check by adding this to the main body just to make sure it was aligned correctly, hence the sort of glue tear marks there. It's just a weird way to place it, but you're seeing the knee right here. And it makes sense. You can do what I did and glue it in there, and then sort of press this up where it would normally sit on the body just to make sure it's aligned, or add this up to the body and then just shove this up in there in the obvious hole. But we've got our left leg in, so now we attach this to the main body here on the front. All right, this is how it appears. It does connect down here. Don't forget to glue that spot. But we can now attach the right leg right here, which, as you can see, would be very hard to do if we had tried to attach it to one piece or the other. So this will be exposed thigh right here, and you can obviously make sure it's aligned correctly with the left leg. There is the leg. Don't worry about this flat connection point here. That'll be covered up by the back skirt bit here. So now we can work on footwear. Now, I'm probably not going to make this visible on the video, but basically there are two different kinds of connection points at the bottom of the legs here. This one is in the center, and this one is off to the side. So if we look at our footwear, can't really see inside, but there you can see this one, the sort of divot is offset a bit, whereas on this one it's in the center. So this will be our left foot, and this will be our right foot. The left foot is in, it's a very small, very wobbly connection point, so it's not going to be very confident to know it's in the right spot. I just set it down on a flat surface and pushed down on it just gently enough to make sure the alignment was good so that the boot is flat at the same time that the skirt is flat on the ground. And then I'll probably do the same thing with the left foot if it's touching the ground. I'm actually not entirely sure if it's the right foot. If it's touching the ground, I'm not entirely sure if it is or not. So let's add our other foot now. Now we have a good right foot. And again, just set it gently onto a flat surface. Camera. And make sure it looks good as well. Those are the only two steps you really need. And then wait for it to cure. Because it's going to be a real big finicky pain to get them back on. So I'm going to let these cure, and then we will add the back of the skirt back here, which is this piece. Alright, that is not a skirt really, it's like a shawl or something she's wearing on her arms, but also realize that it is not the part that connects right here on the thigh. That'll probably have to be her right arm because there is a dangly bit to it. But this goes on fairly simply, and I thought I let it cure long enough. Whoops. So I'm going to fix my feet, and then we will add her hat right there. There's our hat. It has the usual tooth and groove connection. Okay, next we will do our left arm, which will connect down here and also be holding on to the brim of the hat. I had a lot of difficulty with this, which included me just giving up and taking the feet off. I'll do them last now. They are a major pain. But what I figured out was why it wasn't working for me is because this back piece was not on well enough. And this part of it that connects the arm wasn't as far forward as it should be, so the connection looked really bad. But if we look now, everything more or less lines up. It has this weird notch in the elbow because that is where the either right hand or the fan on the right hand will connect to this elbow. So just match to the render as best you can, and if it really doesn't seem like it's working, maybe tear this off and put it back on and make sure it's nice and snug. Which ended up being my solution. So I guess now we can do that right arm, which will connect right along here to the elbow as well as down here along the thigh. And there we go. Again, it probably won't attach very well if this isn't pushed onto her as hard as it should be. So that's going to cause some issues for some people if you don't attach that well enough. Make sure it's nice and trimmed. But I'm going to go ahead and attach the feet and we'll call her done. Serena Bowman is completed. A lot more difficult than I was expecting her to be. Hardest parts for me were one, the shawl thing she's wearing on her arms crossed her back. It not being in place made the arms incorrect. So gotta make sure that is on as tightly as possible, and also her feet suck. I'm so glad Weird doesn't really do this individual small foot with a tiny connection point very often anymore. But yep, that's it for her. Now let's get on to the reason you're probably here. Our first Insidious Madness doesn't look like it's going to be too hard, but I could very well be wrong. As far as bits, we're going to grab this part of the body first, and then we'll add the upper mouth to it, which should go on this side of it. And then after that, I think we'll do the bottom, which will include the bottom part of the mouth. And then this, which is the right side. Somewhere along there we will attach this tentacle, which I believe is on the bottom. and this, which I think is also on the right side, but I'll have to check. And lastly, you'll do this arm with the talon thing that just goes right in there. Okay, so grab this piece and then this piece. I forgot to mention that we should look at the instructions, so I'm going to show that now. It may not look it, but I am holding this upright. Our next piece with the mouth is going to go, whoop, come on. It's going to glue right there as well as up along this tentacle. Alright. First two bits down. Next will be the lower part of the mouth as well as some arms it's on. And those are going to glue right here, this nice big connection point. And quick reminder, the bit we're looking at is this one. You can see the teeth right there. It's going to go in kind of weird. Just trust the instructions. But trying to align the mouth properly is how I got to sit in there correctly. You really don't want to reference this side because it just looks all janked up. But yeah, obviously the seam there is pretty good. So actually next we'll do the tentacle. It's sort of resting on, which will fill in this hole right here. And that is this piece. Yeah, this one. There's our tentacliness. Let's check our seam on the bottom. That looks good. So now we're going to close up most, if not all, of the side with this bit. I'm not entirely sure where this one goes yet. That should give us a good clue. So yep, that should fill up the whole big old hole on its right side. Okay. Thankfully everything is still fairly smooshy as far as the cement curing, so I can just gently press, or firmly press, to get things sort of slot into shape. But that's where the bit goes. Arm is pointing up as a point of reference, but our seam, don't remember what the big hole was right along there, which means our mysterious tentacle will connect there and run down this groove. So let's do that next. It's slightly tight squeeze to pop it in there, but hi Wednesday, the cat is meowing. I actually put a little bit more effort into this, and I'll walk you through it because these models, there's a lot of interlocking parts, and where like a gap somewhere will make a gap somewhere else worse. So I didn't like how the gap was, especially like right there. So I ended up ripping out this bit, the one we just added, and the one previous, and then I inspected them. And specifically on the connection points, and if there's any like rough plastic, then I know that's where it connected to the other bits, and anything that was still smooth was not connecting to the other bits at all. So what I did is I shaved down the rough parts to hopefully bring the parts that weren't connected closer to where they're supposed to connect, and ended up with better gaps. I maybe should have videotaped it before. But these are pretty good as far as seams. I'm happy with them. But also I ended up attaching this tentacle to this bit first and then jamming it in. Kind of hard for you to figure out how that goes in if you were just doing it flat, I mean, without my help. But that is definitely an optional step for this. Instead of attaching this and then cramming this in there, you could attach these two together and then just put the whole panel on. But okay, we're almost done. Last bit, the sort of talon. The stabby arm is in, and we're going to call him good. Let's put him on a base and get started on our second one. Our first Insidious Madness is done, and we're going to call him Looney. Easier than I was expecting it, but hardest part for me was that combination of the two bits on the right side, having to peel them off and shave them down to get a better gap. Yeah, and it's still not great there. I could do some more filling with it if I really wanted to, but that was the hardest part, and it's something that is, you can deal with it, so all in all, not too bad. I think the hardest part is really just not understanding where things go on the backside of these minis. So possibly the best thing you can get from this video is just a view of the back of them, but happy to help in any way I can. Let's move on. Our second Insidious Madness is going to have considerably more bits, but I don't see anything on there that is too impossible to do. Let's just take it one bit at a time, shall we? So we have got 2 bits of the main body. We'll connect those first. And then I want to get rid of all of our tentacle stuff. So we're going to do all the tentacles, which in this case they are all on the bottom of the model, propping it up. We'll start with the 3-piece one, which is this guy, this piece, and one of the tentacles. I think this one, ends of the tentacles. Then there's a singular bit, which we will attach. And after that, the real spiky one, where this guy, and as well, one of these tentacle ends, which we'll figure it out. And lastly, this smaller, almost lumpy one, and the last tentacle end. And then it should be able to sit up on its own. We will then do this piece, which is, sorry, not that piece. It's around here somewhere. I believe this one, which will attach to the side right there. Then there is an arm on that will go in here, and a mask that will attach to the arm. There's a mask here somewhere. And then we can get started on the top. There's the mask. We get started on the top of the mini, doing the rest of the bits, like this one, this one. There's an arm that will attach to it, and then there's 2 arms holding this mouth open, and there is a tongue, a small tongue here that will attach inside there, and then we'll add that on top. So this order might change, but I think that's a pretty good rough idea of where we're probably going to go with it. So let's grab our 2 halves of the body first. There's the first body part, effectively the left side of the monster. Now let's add the other one in here, and we have a complete body. Same looks good. I said that the arm would connect in here. That is incorrect. So the arm holding the mask will probably be, I think, maybe right there. But we'll see. Doesn't matter. We're going to work on tentacles next. So we'll combine all 3 pieces of the tentacle and then attach it to the body. It's going to be this guy, the big long one, this, and I think this one. I'll double check though and let you know. Yep, it's this one. Just a reference onto the sprue. It's the only tentacle that's in this like column of bits. Big bit first, and with our other sort of half of it. Now our last tentacle is going to fit right there and just follow the suckers as far as orientation. The tentacle is going to fit on the back of our body. Again, this is sort of our left side. We'll turn around. 2 spots to connect to, one right here, which is where it starts, and then part of the arm will also connect along this connection point. You can see that second connection point, that smooth part right here. Okay, that's connected. Okay, our next pentacle is a singular bit. It will connect right in there. That is going to be this chunky one. Alright, tentacles in place. Here's it in relation to the one we just added, which is slightly in the way, but not too hard to still connect it into its connection point. Keep in mind that the base of the tentacle connects to the spot connection point on the body, but also the tip of the tentacle down here also glues into the body, and you might be able to get that gap filled too if you do a bit of scraping. Alright, moving on to our next tentacle, which I believe should go right there. And let's start with this one. And then our tip is going to be this one. You know it's the correct one because it doesn't have any sort of tooth on it, whereas the other tentacle does have this tooth. So this guy, then this guy. Let's combine the 2 bits first. Here's our base. This is another connection where it's hard to figure out its orientation until you see it done. The tip connects, basically hugs the side of the first piece. And so it's really just kind of wrapping around itself in a spiral. Yep, there we go. Now we can jam this on the body once I figure out my orientation right there. Okay. That's good. And we can see the connection point for our last tentacle right there, which, through the process of elimination, we can tell is going to be the base and the tip. Let's combine those two first together. Here is the base, and that should do it. We're done with all of our tentacles. That's a lot of tentacles. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and do the arm holding the mask. Arm should connect here, wrap up this way, and the mask should connect to it and possibly the body. I think that's how it's probably going to go, so we'll go ahead and add the arm first to the body and then the mask. Specifically this larger arm and then this mask. I was wrong, it doesn't hug the body as much as I thought it would. So I've got some extra cement there that went to waste. Maybe slightly this tentacle's in the way, but easy enough to just poke it into place. But I think you could probably do this tentacle after doing every other tentacle, and this arm should be fine. But let's just glue the mask on there, which contains 2 fingers, which should give you good orientation. Sorry, 3 fingers, 1 thumb. But you can see the bits that were attached to the mask. Here's the mask from the front. Cool. Now let's do our mouth bit that's going along there. That piece is this one. Alright, we've got ourselves a weird mouth. Cool. Alright, our top assembly is going to go like this. We will attach this first to sort of the base of the top part, and then I think we should assemble everything else, with the exception of this bit, together before plopping that on top. So sort of have this body here for the top. This arm will connect here and attach to this hand up here. And this hand plus mouth thing will attach to, I think nothing. I think this actually would attach to the base, but this will attach to the arm right there as well as this big hole. But before we add that, we'll quickly glue the tongue into the mouth, which is on the other side of this. That should be everything except for this piece. We can glue that on top, or glue this piece in first after some dry fitting. So, long-winded speech to say, let's attach this to the body, and then clip this out, these two together, and then add them, and then this piece. Okay, first piece, gonna fit right on there. There, it is attached. Okay, set the body down and grab our upper body, I guess. It's upside down. And next will be the arm that goes right in there, the one standalone arm still on the sprue. I guess I could have said the spiky arm, but those two are connected. We just set it down now. Let's cut out this guy and the tongue. You can see our connection point for the tongue and the deep in the mouth. And it's a semicircle, so there is a specific orientation for it. Sadly, I don't think I can show that to you just because it's too small. Yeah, dry fit and or match the render. A good set of tweezers will be very helpful here. Okay, let's attach it to our sort of upper body, the mouth going right here, and the left arm attaching on this elbow. Alright, all together. Now we are going to go ahead and add our last piece before we attach that whole block of bits to the model, and it's going to go right in there. Alright. Don't really have a good way of explaining the orientation. I guess the nubbins are sort of pointed down, but the seam looks really good, so we're going to call it good. Alright, now attach our top, which is going to attach right there, and then all the way out here, I think. No, right there. That'll be the right arm. Alright, the top is on. This thing is horrifying. Put him on a base. Our second Insidious Madness is completed. We're going to call this one Cuckoo. The hard part for me was figuring out some of the orientations on the tentacles, especially the first one that's in 3 bits, and then getting the tongue jammed into the mouth. But again, not as much difficulty as I was expecting, and I'm sure this will be very useful for a lot of people, especially getting to see the back of the Mini. Okay, let's move on to the big guy then. Alright, our last Insidious Madness, and actually has fewer bits than the last one. I was wrong. There is one that's popped off here, but I have it in front of me. It is part of a mouth, sort of mouth type shape that connects to this one. But let's get our order straightened out. We've got 4 pieces for the round-ish body. These 2 are on the bottom. These are the sides that also make up the top. So we'll add those 2 together first. And then we'll go through all the stuff that's sort of like touching the ground. So this tentacle hand oval thing, plus the effect that attaches to the top of it. I think this tentacle is the one that rests on the ground as well. There is a thing on the back that connects to the body. I believe it's this piece. Could be wrong. That also connects to a hand that is also touching the ground. Anyways, once we get all that figured out, we can add stuff to the body. So the 2 sides of the head, pseudo head mouth thing, as well as this piece, which I think these might attach to. A lot of guessing here on my part, but we'll figure it out. The mask goes on the side, and then I think all the other tentacles plus the scythe sort of come out the top. So anyways, start with these 2 pieces first, and then we'll add the 2 sides. Here's one of our first 2 pieces. The other one also has a very similar sort of line connection point, so they will go like that. There they are connected, and now thanks to just some dry fitting, I realize we need to add 2 more bits before we put the 2 big sides on. So this is going to be the front of our mini, and right along there is going to connect this bit, and then completely on the back side is going to be this bit. So we'll attach this one first, and then this one. Oops. So that first tall triangle piece is going to connect right along here. It's not going to be a very solid connection, but we're going to add the sides to it pretty quickly, so don't worry if it's not perfect. Okay, it's actually probably easier to check the seam on the inside and make sure it's relatively flush here and there, and it'll be good. Okay, our next piece on the other side is going to be sitting sideways. Gonna be going in like that, I believe. Yep. Okay. Now we're looking at the back of the mini. So now we're going to add the left side, the side that you can actually see on the render. It's going to be the side with the eyes. Alright. Alright. So left side of the mini connects to our bit in the back, as well as our bit in the front. So now let's do our right side. Not hard to grab with the tweezers, but there's our seam. So we've got a full body now, and I'm starting to realize that this might actually just be the front of it, not the left side. It's hard to tell. I'm pretty sure you can understand that. Okay, let's do our arm that's in here, the one that's not like part tentacle, with the spikes on it. This guy. There is the arm attached. Next, we'll go ahead and do the tentacle arm, which I believe connects here. Yeah, back here. But we'll double check that first. Anyways, yeah, let's try that. Hey, I guessed right. Okay, there is a bit that attaches right here on sort of the wrist. Don't really know how to describe it outside of it's like a, almost looks like mushrooms or like an explosion of gas or gross stuff. This will connect on the wrist. The tweezer is wonderful. You should attach this to the arm before you attach the arm to the body. This was kind of hard to do, especially if you don't have tweezers. Alright, let's work on the tentacle that goes right there. It should be this one, the thickest one. Okay, another thing it's going to be resting on. Let's turn around. So we've got 2 more tentacles sort of on the bottom. One will go right here, and one will go right here. The first one is this thicker tentacle right here, And the one that goes into the spot that has a sort of hole in it will be this one. I apologize, I got those two switched around. The thicker tentacle is going to go in here, and the slightly less one, this guy, is going to go right there. So let's do that first. There is that. Seam looks great. And now the thicker one. There, that is possibly another thing to be resting on the ground. But the seams look good. Again, apologize for getting those connection points mixed up earlier, but we only have 3, 4, 5 bits left. 5 bits. Okay, the head I mentioned earlier is going to go right here, so I get some more of a mouth. The lower part of the jaw is going to be this bit, and then the upper part would be this one here. Let's combine the two, starting with, I guess, this guy. The top of the mouth, plus the bottom of the mouth. Okay, slap that. Ooh. Put that right there. Alright, that's in. Sort of kind of making something here with the bits coming off the wrist. I had pushed it back a little bit just so it matched the render slightly better. Scrub our mask and put it right there. Got a face, kind of. Alright, our talon scything arm thing is going to fit right in there. Alright, I feel like that's going to get knocked off relatively easily, but got one last tentacle, and it's actually going to go inside our big mouth thing up here. See if you can see it, but there is a connection point right there, you know, the smooth part, sort of pushed up against this side of the mouth. So we're going to go ahead and grab our tentacle and put it in there. The sort of connection point being on the bottom here, and this right there. Okay, this is very much a get it to fit situation. Don't want to fiddle with it too much. But it wasn't really an issue getting it in between the teeth, so I'm okay with this being the last step, especially since it's sticking out, so it's going to be easier to knock out of place. But we're actually done with this guy and done with the whole box. Let's face him. Our third Insidious Madness is done, and we're going to call this one Loco. The hard parts on this mini, there's quite a few. Knowing that you need to basically build all 6 pieces of the body in a weird sort of order, kind of hard. Quite figuring out really the best angle for the tentacle on the very top of the body as well, and then realizing that the instructions have them swapped for the 2 tentacles in the back. And then once that was figured out, they went in pretty easy. But yeah, that's probably the hardest one out of all of them. Really, I think the whole thing is, for me, it was relatively easy, but I'm good at this. This is something I think I have a talent for. And I think just the fact that it's a bunch of parts and there's no real good look at the back of them is what's really tripping people up for these minis. So I think this will be useful. Alright, let's look at the whole box. The Insomnia box is all done, containing 1 Serena Bowman and 3 Insidious Madnesses. Not an easy box. I had plenty of difficulty with it, but getting an order and being able to see where things go on the model is the hardest part of this, I think. Less to do with like dexterity and handling really fiddly stuff, so I think you will have an okay time with it and get to enjoy your weird tentacle monsters and the very nice Lady Serena. So hardest part overall, really, I'm just annoyed at Serena's feet. Like, I understand the difficulties I had with the Insidious Madnesses, and I was prepared for that, but just dealing with the stupid feet and their really tiny connection points frustrated more than anything the Insidious Madnesses did. So there's that, and honorable mention to the back tentacles on the large Insidious Madness, but I've done it, I'm all done, I don't have to assemble this box anymore. Best of luck to you. I think you'll find this useful, but I have been your foreman, Douglas Scoundrels, helping you build a better Malifaux. Have a good night.